Why do we want blueberries? Blueberries are healthy. They're full of antioxidants. And it's been my experience that in the last 2 or 3 years, we've had weather events, we've had all kinds of things that has slowed down our fruit and vegetable production. I've had blueberries every year. They don't seem to care. I don't know what the deal is. And they're relatively pest-free, and like I said, the weather doesn't seem to be a deal breaker for them. Okay, very important. I learned this the hard way. I worked in the Woodlands and lived in Spring, went to Lowe's all the time because it was right there by my house. They sold blueberries, and so I would buy their blueberries and bring them up here and plant them, and strange things happened. They didn't like it. So before you purchase your blueberry bushes, you should know some do's and don'ts. Blueberry bushes are one of the few fruit trees that require very acidic soil. The majority of us, from what I understand, have acidic soil up here. So if you're having problems growing other things, that could be it. They grow best in a pH range of 4 to 5.5. That is acidic. Mine happens to be 4.5. If you don't know your soil pH or you haven't tested your soil in a while, it's very easy to have the extension office help you get a soil test done, and we'll talk about that after a while. All the master gardeners that are here, when we were in the intern class, that was part of it. We all got a soil test, and I was thinking when I was getting this ready, that was 6 years ago, so it's time for me to do it again. I've amended my garden soil, my vegetable garden soil, so you need to do it periodically. Okay, varieties are very important too. The variety for Texas, the ones that we should get is a rabbit eye. I put that word up there and I don't know how to pronounce it. Alapaha? Austin, Brightwell, Climax, Oaklaken, Powder Blue, Premier, Prince, Tiff Blue, Vernon, and Woodard are some of the rabbit eye varieties. The door prize that we have today is a Tiff Blue. And I didn't put anything in here about chill hours, but chill hours are very important also. I think, aren't we about 700? Yeah. So the chill hours for this Tiff Blue blueberry is about 650. You can go 100, maybe 150 below or above, but if you want to get an Anna apple that has 200 chill hours, then it's not going to do well here. It goes through its cycle when we get 200 chill hours, which are temperatures between 45 and 32. When those add up to 200, Anna's ready to go. She's got all she needs. So you need to get something that has, I would say, 600 to 700 chill hours. Okay, most blueberries need a different cultivar for cross-pollination. It's suggested that there be 3 varieties for the best results. If you have 2, then it'll be okay. I personally have the Climax, the Premier, and the Tiff Blue, so they work real well for me. Okay, if you follow the link below, you'll find information on blueberries and all other fruits grown in Texas. And if y'all want to, I don't know if y'all want to, you can put it in your phone now while it's up there, and you'll know where to go. And the reason I say that is because you have an encyclopedia in your phone. If you go to, like I said, Lowe's or if anybody works at Tractor Supply or is related to somebody at Tractor Supply, I love that store. I go there all the time. But I went by there yesterday to get some bird feed on my way to Bobo's to get our door prize. And they had just gotten in all of their packaged blueberries, blackberries, raspberries. Raspberries don't grow here. But I looked at the variety, and we grow the rabbit eye variety here. The variety that they had at Tractor Supply, and they were nice looking plants, were Legacy and Misty. Well, that's a southern high bush. That's not a variety for here. So just because somebody sells something in this area does not mean it's for this area. So just be aware of what you're getting. It may live, but it won't thrive like you want it to. When I plant fruit trees and things, I want some fruit in the next year or two. And they'll grow and look okay, but they're not going to do what you want them to do. Okay, so this link here is where you get these. For every fruit in the state of Texas that A&M has any knowledge of, it has one of these packets for it. So it's very informative. Okay. Mulch. The roots of blueberry bushes are very shallow. They would benefit from a circle of pine bark mulch and pine straw. And this will also keep the soil more acidic. Pine bark mulch and pine straw. Pine trees live in very acidic soil, so what you get from them is going to be acidic. Experience. If you use glyphosate or Roundup or anything like that on making an area that is weed-free around your bushes, blueberries are going to be one of those that have sprouts out from the roots, okay? Don't use that around them. Anything that can sprout up, that'll go back to your main bush and kill your main bush. Just use the bark mulch. Blueberries are related to azaleas. I found that strange. You wouldn't think it. But azaleas are not crazy about being in the full sun, but blueberries need to be in the full sun. They also said that they're sensitive to some types of fertilizer and not to use barnyard fertilizer. I don't use the barnyard fertilizer, but I've never been real particular about what kind of fertilizer I put on them. It says they prefer the ammonium sulfate 2100. And if anybody went to the fruit seminar at Bobo's a couple weeks ago, the speaker in there said that if it suggests using azalea food, but if you cover up the label on the bag before you put it on there, the plant has no idea what that fertilizer is. So, you know, it's, don't have a whole bunch of bags of fertilizer for different things. They should be happy with at least an inch of water per week. When you plant your strawberries, this is another personal experience. Blueberries are mature when they're about 7 years old. Okay, and some blueberries don't taste like the other blueberries. Some are more tart, some are different colors. Put the name of the plant and when you planted it near it so you'll know 7 years from now what it is when somebody says, oh, I like those.
And that climax is gritty.
Huh?
That climax is gritty. It's like eating sand.
Anyway. And they don't ripen after you pick them, so wait till they're blue. Oh. Okay, does anybody have any idea what that is? And I can tell you there's no livestock in that garden. Gophers. Gophers love roots, that's what they eat, and they love blueberry roots. They like peach tree roots, they like rose roots. So when you see these coming up around, invest in a spring trap. So you can get rid of them because they're not doing your garden any good. Okay. It's very important that you know what the pH is in your ground, okay? We have bags of this up there where you and the instructions that tell you how to get a soil sample, okay? If you want to know what the pH is in your vegetable garden, don't go out in the pasture and get a sample. If you want to know what your pasture is, don't use your vegetable garden for the summer. And it asks you all kinds of questions. They really want to help you as much as they can. Down at the bottom, you know, they ask for a little bit of history, and they also want to know what you're growing. You know, what do you want to know about it? And on the back of it, it tells the list of different kinds of things that they'll test for, okay? Number O is for fruit trees, okay? Well, fruit trees require different things. Like the blueberries require the acidic soil. All the other ones usually want something around the 7 range, okay? And then, whenever you do, it's $12. You can take your sample up to the ag office and Richard will take care of it for you, or you can take it to A&M or send it to A&M, however you want.
You might get your results back quicker if you send it or yourself, or if you're in College Station dropping it off at the lab.
Yeah.
You'll get it quicker than if I take care of it.
At least you're honest. Okay, so there's a soil analysis report up there also. If you look on the very top line, it says pH. This gentleman has a 7.7. Okay, he's okay, but he's a little bit alkaline, and what is it you put in there to take out? I don't know. Okay.
Sulfur.
Sulfur, yeah. I haven't ever worried about that because I've never been up there. Then it tells you how much nitrate you have in there. Well, that's your fertilizer, your nitrogen. This poor fella, he doesn't have anything in his soil, so he's not going to grow anything if he doesn't put a little bit of fertilizer out there. The phosphorus and the potassium, once you have that in your soil, it doesn't go anywhere, so you pretty much don't have to worry about that one. And then calcium, stuff for chickens. What is that stuff that you put out for the chickens for their calcium? Oyster shells, yes. You can get oyster shells and put that out there. For magnesium, you're going to put
Epsom salt.
the bath stuff.
Epsom salt.
Epsom salt, which that really surprised me. I had no idea that Epsom salt would go good in your garden. It'll also help your tomatoes. When you put fertilizer out there, put some fish emulsion and some Epsom salt, and you'll be surprised how good it does.
Throw a little calcium in too to stop the blossom rot.
There you go. And I also heard the other day that if you have figs that aren't making, if you have an old rusty hinge, go throw that out there. Old rusty hinge. That'll give them some iron. That's what they're looking for. Little icicles. Okay, so I've got a couple more minutes. If any of y'all know a master gardener or have any interest in master gardening, I had a lot of people whenever I first started that said, well, I don't really care about flowers, I don't want to do that. But there's a lot of things that we do other than that. We've got a group of people at the Leon Elementary School today that are doing a water fair and teaching the kids all about the importance of water. We have one member that's in Huntsville that's giving a class on composting. We're the ones that do the training here for the young kids at Pumpkin Patch. We do the decorations for Christmas. We do the scarecrows that you see out in October. That's all master gardeners. So if you have any interest to become a master gardener, just let one of us know, or Richard. We'll be happy to answer some questions, and we're always happy to have extra people. And I hope you've got a lot to talk about, because that's about all I have.
Afternoon. I'm Carole Huebner. I'm Leon County Master Gardener as well. My husband and I also have a fruit farm outside of Leona. And it's here grown blackberries, and we also have peaches and plums. He's retired county agent. He used to be what Richard is now, a number of years ago. He's been retired though for like almost 18 years. Did some other things, now we're doing the fruit farm. But I'm going to talk about blackberries. Foreign grown and packed. This is just an ideal what they look like growing up on the trellis. Blackberries are very good for you. They're healthy, they're low in calories, they're very high in fiber, and they're one of the fruits that's allowed in the keto diet. So years ago we had one of our customers telling me that she was on the keto and she was so excited she could make a blackberry cheesecake, something she called tart, I think, and use some blackberries, but it was one of the few fruits she could use at the time. Blackberries, I use some of the information out of this folder. 1 cup of blackberries, only 60 calories, but it has 50% of the day's requirement of vitamin C, 31% of fiber. I kind of wonder that, but that's what it says in here. 9% is folate, 8% of vitamin A, and 6% of vitamin E. No saturated fat or trans fat, no cholesterol, safe sodium. Blueberries usually get all the good vibes, the hype about being the superfood and being super high in antioxidants. But blackberries are right up there with them. They have high levels of anthocyanins, which give them their deep dark color, and that's what works as your antioxidants in your body. Realistically, you're not going to eat a cup of blackberries every day, but you can use them, during and other things in your meals and so forth. Frozen blackberries have all the same nutrients as fresh ones. They don't lose their vitamins. They don't lose antioxidants. These are just some little points about blackberries. They're members of the bramble or caneberry family. They're kin to the wall blackberries or dewberries, but they are much improved varieties. They're kind of a distant cousin. They've been bred up more or less and improved over the years, and so they're more like a cousin now. But as a result, they don't ripen the same time your wild blueberries do. When they start getting ripe, we always start getting calls. Yeah, when our blackberries will be ready, but they're later. Blackberries don't ripen until the end of May, 1st of June. There are 2 growth types, erect and trailing. Actually, they have one that's called semi-erect, but that's good enough. And even though some of them are considered erect, you buy them and say erect, the first year they're going to strangle out. That's just typical. So it's a good idea to train them up onto a trellis, and I'll have some more information on that later. They're excellent fruit for your home garden, commercial, farm, or for pick your own. They're very nutritious and high antioxidants. They handle the heat well. They handle the cold pretty well. Depending on the variety, the individual vary on the plants. Can be anywhere from a 1/2 inch to 2 inch or even bigger. The sugar ranges from 5% to 11, even up to 12%. Some of the older varieties, such as the Brazos, Rossborough, they're probably going to be close to 5% sugar, 6% sugar. That's why they taste so tart. The blackberry is solid at the center. If you ever looked at one, they're firm. They've got a core in it. And whereas their cousin, the raspberry, it's hollow inside. Mentioned the ripening season is usually late May to early July. There at the farm, we usually say Memorial Day is about when we open up for business. Blackberries are biennial plants, which means they have 2 types of canes, primocanes and floricanes. The primocanes are the new ones, big growing. this time of year, if it was out there in the field, right now, if this was just planted, this would be, let me back up. I'm going to use this as a demonstration for two different things. But the plant, what's growing right here and has buds on it, if it was planted last year, this is going to be your floor tank. This will be what will be having fruit on it this year. If this is one that you have just planted and had it, or this is one that you had growing in the field and there's new growth coming out, then that would be considered primary tank. New growth is considered primary tanks. But the floor tanks are the ones that will put on buds and bloom, and they will make the fruit this year. They grow best in sandy soil, but they'll pretty well grow in any soil as long as you have a good drainage, or pretty tolerant of pH, anywhere from 4.5 to 7.5. One thing you have to do on blackberries, you have to take out the old canes at the end of the season. Always get asked, how do you tell the difference? And it kind of depends on when you do it. If you do it right after the berries are through, you picked all your berries and they're just sitting there, these stems will probably be brown, or a combination of green and brown, but the easiest way to tell which ones to take out, follow them up. On the branches, you'll see where they had berries. They have these little branches that may not have anything but the little stem part on them, but you know that had berries on it this year. Cut it off at the ground, it's never going to make berries again. That stem's going to die. If you wait a little later, because by then it may be July, even into August, and if you don't want to be out there working in the garden in the heat of July or August, if you want to wait a little later and do it, they'll probably be turned this tan color by that point. So it makes it easier to turn them out. New growth that you'll have on your plants will look like this. It will be smooth skin, probably have buds, they may have some little leaves on them, but they won't have any sign of having made berries. And you'll leave those, tie them up to your trellis after you take your old ones off, and train them. This will be what will have berries on it next year. Mention a few varieties. We have this publication. It's doesn't have the latest varieties in there, but let me tell you about some that we've used that we really, really like, and then some new ones as well. And then about the primal berry. Most of the blackberries are considered floor tank berry. One floor tank when they're flowering, they're the second year thing. Carole, one of the ones we grow, it's a thorn variety. It does have thorns. They're big berries, they're sweet, they make a lot. If you grow them up onto a trellis or in a hedge form that's supported, they're still easy to pick. It's not like you're having to battle them constantly. They make lots of fruit, big clusters. Our customers like Carole. We like them. The only bad part is when you're having to trim out the old fruit wood. And you've got to be sure and other gloves, rose pruning gloves that are up to your elbow sometimes. Good pruners. The thornless varieties. Let me add one thing. Blackberries, you do not have to have two different varieties to cross-pollinate. They're self-fruitful. So if you just want one variety, that's fine. If you want a couple varieties having a little different time as they're coming off, that's a plus. Three of the thornless varieties that we have grown, the Natchez, which is what I have a door prize here for Washita. It's spelled like ouch with an A in it. It's Washita. And I've noticed some of the nurseries spell wash with a W. So I'm going to have a Q, and I think that's supposed to be Washita, and Osage. They all have a little different flavor to them. We encourage people to try the different varieties and see which ones they like best. The Natchez, they have a real wild growth habit. In fact, that one right there is a Natchez. They'll put runners probably 20 foot long if you allow it. But you have to be careful with Natchez and not let them overcrop. So you have to trim them back. Don't let the runners go probably a foot and a half past the next plant on the side. Tip them and you'll make them. Tipping these, you're encouraging them to put side branches on, and all the side branches will put on blooms and have berries too, so you're doing that. Washita is one of the first, or one of the earlier thornless varieties that commercially grown. They're kind of a medium-sized berry. They're good flavored, but it's funny, of all the varieties, there's kind of it's a shiny black and just a little bit past shiny black. The Washita, if you pick it just a little bit, it's not fully ripe, it'll be a little bit tart. But then if you go just a tiny bit more, it's really super sweet. And it's hard to describe it, but it's a good berry. Osage, to me, has one of the richest flavors. It's a kind of medium-sized berry. It's quite smaller than the Carole, smaller than the Carole and the Ponca. But anyway, all three of those have about 10% sugar, and you'll probably be able to find them in nurseries and pots. Maybe not Osage, but Natchez and Washita. Carole and Ponca are two of the newer ones. You notice all these have Indian names. These were developed by the University of Arkansas. Dr. John Clark is kind of the modern blackberry guru. He's the one that has developed these. He's just recently retired a couple years ago, but he has an assistant that's continuing everything. And we have planted the Carole and the Ponca, and they are both extremely good. Ponca is probably the sweetest berry you'll find. Two others I want to mention. Apache is also a University of Arkansas variety. I've seen them around in the beach stores and the nurseries this year. We grew them a number of years ago when we first started growing blackberries, but the Apache's a little bit more tart. Just eating them, I like it a little tart. But it has one problem that some of the other varieties may have it a little bit, but they were kind of numb. On the back page of your here, they have a picture here. It's called white druplet. That means the berry can develop little white spots. Each of those little parts is called a druplet. And these on here have an awful lot of them, but lots of times they'll have 3 or 4 of them in a group, or sometimes half a berry. But the Apache tends to have that problem. And that's part of the reason we quit growing them years ago. Plus, where we have them, we abandoned that field because the deer got them during the drought of 2011. But it's still a decent berry if you kind of keep that in mind. The white druplets, we get some on Carole. They don't know exactly what causes them. The big theory is it's basically a sunshine. Happens lots of times the lower part of the plant when there's been dew, or maybe a late shower and then sun really comes out, and it seems like maybe some of the varieties just don't handle it as well. There's nothing wrong with them. They tend to be hard. If you're just eating it, it will be a little bit hard. And I usually, when I'm cutting our berries to sell, I call them out. And I do have used them in jelly, but lots of times I'll cut the white part out before I freeze it. Sweetie pie is a brand new one. It's put out by the USDA. It was developed in Mississippi. I saw them, I think Bobo's have. Did y'all have sweetie pie? You remember, Kim?
I think so, I'm not really sure most of the time.
I know I saw them at the co-op, and I looked them up afterwards. They're good for a home garden. They don't have as long a shelf life as some, so they're not as good for if you were growing them commercially to be shipped somewhere, or selling them and keeping them on the shelf for a long time. But they're supposed to be really good. In fact, I have a little printout of them here from one of the berry ones. That would be one to consider for a home garden. There's also another type that's come out just the last few years. It's called Primatane bearing. The first one's called Fine Jim and Fine Jan. They basically put on 2 crops a year. They put one in spring and one late summer. To me, you want to be out there picking blackberries in August? I don't. Plus, you're going to have to do a lot more watering when they're trying to fill out, and there's some question how well they're going to set that second crop. But you come across the Primark Horizon, is the newest one. The nursery where I was ordering some other plants from, he was kind of trying to get me to take some. He said they are semi-thornless. They have thorns, but they're not as bad. Some of the other ones are very, very, very thorny. Now the Primark Freedom, which has been out a couple or 3 years, it doesn't have thorns. But anyway, we haven't tried them for that reason. But there's no reason we can't. And there's other varieties that you see out in the nurseries and so forth. I'm not saying they're bad, just that some of these here, newer ones, are better. Personally, I would stay away from Rossboro and grasses. They are very, very thorny and not very sweet. And then the old grasses made a lot, but they were real susceptible to rust and some other diseases. We had them years and years ago when we lived east of town. There's some of the others, but some of the first thornless ones, the Arapaho, some of the others, when they first developed them, to get the thornless, you kind of gave up some other things. And so one of the things was the production. I just don't make as much as some of the newer varieties. That doesn't say they're bad. If that's what you bought, or that's the only thing you can find, they're still a decent berry. Planting blackberries. Unless you're going commercial or really big time, you don't have to do what we did there. We're still Christmas tree farmers in a way. We measure things out and put flags, particularly if we're putting in a new field. Dig a hole. Use a post hole digger, Steve. Use a shovel. We get most of ours when we order them, and they're bare root plants. I'll talk about them, show them in a minute. Dig your hole big enough, you can spread your roots out. Take it back out, and personally, we add a scoop of Osmocote, which is time release fertilizer, and a scoop of Molmax. It's kind of a repellent. We put it in the hole, put a little dirt on top of it, and kind of pack it where it's not directly in contact with the roots. Or you can fill it halfway with your dirt and then add your Osmocote around it and then finish filling up with dirt, or divide it up in 3 layers, it doesn't matter. But when you get through, you may just have something that looks like just you planted a stick. But it will come out. Again, see here in the bucket there, we've got the bare root plants. We put them in water with a little root stimulator in it, let them soak while you're waiting to plant them. Another way you can get them is in plugs. They look like oversized tomato, like what you get your 6 packs of tomatoes, roots. Some of them we get is, that year we got some tissue cultures, and ones, some we've ordered this year are coming are tissue cultures. They're little bitty liners, and we had to pot them up into solo cups, or smaller 4-inch smaller plots or solo cups until they got a little bit of size. That year, we got them just before the polar vortex came through a couple years ago, and we knew we didn't want them outside in that. So we potted them up and kept them in there for about 3 weeks, I think, and then we planted them in the field. Back up. Most likely, if you're a homeowner, just doing a view, you'll get a containerized plant like this. Just turn it up, take it out of the plant, loosen out of the pot, loosen the roots a little bit. You don't have to take the media off of them, but just make sure you're able, if the roots are going around and around, kind of break them up a little bit. But otherwise, it's ready to go in the ground. These are blackberry root cuttings. That's a lot of straw or peat moss that's around them. They're just little pieces of root about this long. And some nursery supplies you can order blackberry root cuttings. From experience, do not order thornless blackberry root cuttings. They were supposed to have a survivability of about 65–66%. These were 30%. By the time you go, take the time to plant them and so forth, but only 3 out of 10 you planted come up at all. It's not worth it. The price difference between the root cutting and the plant just wasn't worth it. Now, we have friends who have bought power root cuttings and put them in a water trough, soil, and got them up going, and then transplanted them. And he had no good luck with that. I know Womack's nursery up near Stephenville, they usually have blackberry root cuttings.
Now, do they have to be completely buried?
Yes.
So they would, you can't put them like in a cup like she did with the other little plants.
Yeah.
You have to put them.
Yeah, you just put it right under the big trench and put it in. We planted them thinking we wouldn't have as much, the normal survivability. We planted them 2 foot apart. At the time we were planting berries 4 foot apart. Now we're planting 3 foot apart, particularly the thornless ones. But anyway, stay away from the root cutting thornless. Yes.
An established plant
Yes.
sends out roots. Anything that comes up from those roots,
You can cut them and transplant them. Yes.
can you leave them? Because it's far enough away.
Yeah, you can. Just keep in mind if you're mowing along there, that might be in the way, and on your irrigation really not reach out that far. Or some varieties, the wash top sends out lots of shoots. You can dig them up and transplant them back into your row or somewhere else. But then some varieties just don't have hardly any, and they just doesn't put up a whole lot of new shoots that come out from the root. Yes, did you have a question? Yes.
Yeah, I was wondering, I think I have a question. That put out I noticed when I went out there today, it put out a really long shoot that I got in a raised bed. It went from one raised bed to another raised bed. Can I cut that off and root it, or do I need to put it in a pot, kind of pin it into a pot and root it?
Either way, it'd probably be quicker if you put it in the pot, lean it over and put it into the pot and cover it up and kind of anchor it down. At the end of the season, lots of times, some of the varieties that we haven't gotten tied up to the trellis yet, so they're touching the ground, some of them will start rooting.
I did put trellises in. These are I had berries last year, but these are the new growths. Yeah.
Some varieties will go like crazy, like the natures, grow huge long ones. After you set out your blackberry plants, you don't have to do it right away. In fact, it's better you don't do it right away. You want your ground to warm up a little bit, and then put your mulch around it. It'll help with the weeds, and if the weeds do come out, like there's a little some grass coming up there, they come up and pull it out real easy. Here's your new row with mulch. You can use pine bark mulch, you can use hardwood mulch, depending on where you can get a good source. Okay, you got your blackberries planted. Now we need to think about how you're going to train them. Trellis system, and I'll show you pictures in a minute. We use a 3-wire trellis system. We have 3 wires. The first wire, we use electric fence wire. No electric fence wire, what we use. It's readily available. First wire is at 18 inches, and that's what we tie up our irrigation line to. We use drip irrigation with the poly pipe emitters, and we put 3 emitters per plant. 1 right in the center, and then 2 out kind of on the edge of the holes. Go out probably 8 inches maybe from the center. We put 3 in. Third wire about 3 foot. It can be 2.5 to 3 foot, and then at 5 foot. Most of the T-posts, the 5 foot, kind of just a little bit below the top of the regular T-post, unless you buy the real tall ones. If you're not going to be putting drip irrigation down, if you're just going to hand water, or if you're using soaker hoses, leaky pipe, you can go with 2 wires, bottom wire, put on there 3, but anywhere 2.5, 3 foot. You have it low enough where you can tie your vine up to fairly quick, and the taller one. Loosely tie your vines to the wire. Since we have a farm, we order these branch locks from the orchard supply place. Little plastic. They look like that. They're straight when you get them. They have the hooks. And these hooks go around the end of the wire. Goes around the plant post. This is a used one, which was probably ones from last year. They usually last a couple years before the sun makes them brittle and they break. Another thing you can use, you can have a source of ag tape, green nursery tape. I think some of the bigger nurseries and nursery supplies carry them. Even the roll tape works. You know, the thing is, don't tie it tight. Tie it loose. So your vine has a little bit of room to move and also to grow out. Another thing you can use, pantyhose. Take your pantyhose, cut a strip about 1 inch wide, and cut it in half. You have a real flexible tie. You can use knee highs. If you use used pantyhose, I wouldn't use the foot because you probably might sweat on it. But anywhere above the ankle, take it and line here and tie it to the wire with this. Again, it is thin. And it also does not cut a hole, make a big crimp into the vine. You don't want to use red tie wrapper because that wire will cut into the stem itself after a while. If they get heavy and they are leaning on that, they can cut into it. You can use jute twine. Again, if you leave it real tight, especially if it's kind of thick, again, lose it, don't tie it tight. Also, I'll show you a little bit about pruning. The head system is another system. You're basically growing, on this trellis system, you're growing everything out and craning it outward on these wires. And the stems come out, yeah, but yet they're supported. You can walk right up to the trellis and start picking berries. The head system is similar. You use a big post and a T-post, but you put a piece of board across or a piece of rebar comes out about this far at the top, and then smaller one about halfway down, one that's narrower, and you train your vines up between those. Just kind of lean up. I'm thinking about the edge. Make a big V. As I mentioned, even though they're considered erect or semi-erect things, the first growth, lots of times, you want to spread out like that. You can see right here, this is the line that has our irrigation on it. Right here is our middle wire, at about 3 foot, and right up here. Oops, no. Anyway, the third one comes along, somewhere along here. You won't be using that top one for a while. You at least get the wire on the middle one, and then it gives you a little bit of time to work. Yes.
So once it reaches that 5-foot height or stuff, do you begin to start trimming them so they
Yes.
bush out more? Because
Yes.
like you said, with blueberries, you don't prune or
No,
anything.
no.
The blackberries,
With
you have
blackberries,
to.
every time you this one, running out, here's the 3 foot. Okay, this one's a 3 foot. You can take this runner, you probably won't have them this long to begin with, but eventually you're going to tie this one down to the middle wire. Go ahead and tip prune it. So that makes all of these little branches come out. Or these buds come out. They make blooms, they make leaves, and they make little branches. If this was kind of end of the season, if this was one we were saving, we would probably trim it back about 1 foot. Or the side branches, if they weren't tied down to the wire, we'd cut them back about anywhere from 8 inches to 12 inches. The top, when you get to your top, wire at 5 foot, leave about 2 or 3 buds above and cut it. These buds will send out runners, and you will train them along the wire. If you're a little late doing it during the year, if you don't get around to it till September, say, and this piece, the center piece is long, you can run it along the edge, the top wire, but then go ahead and tip prune it. But you can probably run it 3 foot, 3 or 4 foot. The Carole, they said about 1.5 foot past the next plant. It's about as far as you want to go. So here, these over here have been trained up. These are ones we're fixing to train up. So that's kind of what it looks like after you get them all up. We'll go in later and during the growing season and take the leaves off the first 18 inches for 2 reasons. Air circulation. You can see the ground better. We don't have a problem with snakes, but we like the idea you can see the ground.
Or chiggers too.
And the other reason is these leaves, with the drip irrigation, if they're constantly getting wet, you can have disease problem. So that's why we do that.
What do you recommend for chickens?
For what?
Chiggers.
Chiggers. Well.
Keep the ground away from them, huh?
Use them all.
Oh, yeah.
We haven't had a real problem there in the field for some reason.
We've got
We don't let the grass get tall. Here's some young ones being grown up. This is kind of what you want it to look like. These were probably second-year berries, if I remember right. And those are some of the washcloths. See, they're just barely up. Most of the plant is above the middle wire, and there's just up, just right around the top wire. This, depending on the variety, some are much more, grow a whole lot more. this is kind of what you'd like ideally. You mentioned Canna. Canna makes a lot of vegetation. They are beautiful plants, and they have lots and lots of blooms and lots of berries. At the end of the season, I mentioned you have to take out your old plants. You have to unhook those branch locks. Sometimes you have to trim the dead part out. Again, we're taking the dead part out and tying the new primacanes up to the wire. We're also doing some pruning there as we go. Just kind of before and after. Plus, the reason it looked like that, I backed the tractor up and mowed some of the grass that had started growing. That's the reason it looked quite like that. That's some of the old fruiting canes. We pile them up and load them in the trailer and go carry them down the hill. This is in the springtime. Here you see some blooms. Go on down. So you're kind of you're going right along that trellis, and it makes it real easy to walk up to and pick. Blackberries do need pollinators, but you don't have to have hives of bees to do that. Wild bees, bumblebees, wasps, even flies, they all pollinate. So do butterflies. We always have a lot of butterflies out there. Interesting. So they're ready to pick.
Are those cows?
Yes, those are cows. You can see there's these thorns right there. They are nice. They are big, juicy berries. I'll give you a few picking tips as far as blackberries. Pick your berries in the morning when it's cool. The sugar content in the berries is going to be the highest in the morning. It goes down as the day goes on, as the heat builds. You pick berries at 9 o'clock. Taste one of them. You come back at 2 o'clock and taste that same variety. There can be a big difference. Plus, it's not very much fun picking at 100 degrees out. Last year we closed the field after people got heat stroke out there. Pick berries that are black. You think that's said, but obvious, but it's not always. There's red berries there. Some people think they're raspberries. They're not raspberries.
That's right.
They're just unripe blackberries, and they're hard and they're tart. Invariably, kids will pick some. Tell them to taste one, and then they won't pick them again. If it's not quite ripe, if they're kind of in between almost ripe and ripe, and they're kind of reddish purplish in color, it'll just be a little more tart, which is fine. You can eat them that way. You use them in cobblers, jelly, whatever. We have people that pick for wine, so they're versatile. The berries kind of dull color and dark purple, it's probably overripe. And it might taste like wine. Once you enjoy it, like fermented. And some that they'll just taste super sweet, but if it's gone too far, it'll taste like wine. And also there's a bigger chance that you may have some bugs or something attracted to it. There at the farm, we have buckets for people to pick in. We have gallon-sized buckets. For kids, we have kid-sized buckets. We encourage people to taste the different varieties and pick the ones they like. We don't weigh the kids before and after, but it's funny, we'll have the little ones and they'll come out and they'll just be purple. This is a kawa, one of our super berries. Family thing. A couple years before, they were out picking. He'd be picking. He said, "Mom, I've got a monster." She said, "Okay, put it in the bucket." Gone. And Mom, here's another big one. Put it in the bucket. Well, after a few minutes, she walked over there. I want a berry in the bucket. So she made him come up and show us this one. And this was year before last. And it was toward the end of the season. It was down low. People have been in and picked. A lot of people don't get down low and look up under the some of the vines that Hank, he did. He got the monster. But about a minute later, it was gone. Blackberries, if you picked them, whether it's in your home garden or if you go somewhere and pick your berries, get them home. You're not going to use them immediately, spread them out, paper towel or a large bowl or a cake pan or something, let them cool. If you're going to eat them fresh, go ahead and put them in a bowl in the refrigerator. Or if you have kids or you know you're going to eat them that day, go ahead and wash them and put them in the bowl. But don't wash them otherwise. If you're not planning to use them for a couple days, wait until you're ready to use them before you wash them. The shelf life, they'll keep better. It should keep about a week in the refrigerator if they're not washed. Freezing them, they do very well. Freezing, they keep well. There's a couple different ways. If you're planning to use them for cobblers or cobblers or pies or things where you know you bulk, you can just rinse them, let them dry a little bit, put them in a Ziploc bag, put them in the freezer. But the other way to do it is after you washed them, let them spread out on the paper towel for a while, let them get dry, put them on a cookie sheet. Put the cookie sheet in the freezer and let them freeze. That way they're individual berries. Then you put them into the Ziploc bag, put them in the freezer, and they'll stay loose. You reach in there, grab a handful, put in your cold cereal, or in your hot oatmeal. They're just real easy. A smoothie or something else, if you need to measure out a cup, it's real easy to do that. They make great smoothies, by the way. Quart of blackberries, 4 cups. About a pound is a tiny bit over a pound. A cup's about a quarter pound. The gallon buckets are really not a true gallon, they're a little bit more than a gallon. We figure they're 4 to 5 pounds. And depending on how high they mount the berries. Just enjoy your blackberries. There's a lot of recipes available. We're members of NORMA's, North American Blackberry and Raspberry Association. Blackberry Association. I have a lot of recipes. I have a coffee cake recipe that's absolutely wonderful. And we put out recipes there at the farm. There's recipes in here. To be honest, I tried the blackberry cake recipe they have in here. I was not impressed. It was very dry. I tried the cobbler, but one of my favorite cookie cobblers is the Pioneer Walnut blackberry cobbler. Just Google it up. We have it long too. It's really easy to make, and it's good. We sell jelly and blackberry syrup. I'm going to bring one blackberry syrup for the little guys. Thankfully, blackberries are pretty tolerant of the weather. This was a couple years ago. Polar vortex that came through with a big blizzard. They're pretty, very pretty. This was last week's ice storm. As you can see, they're pretty well coated, about 1/4 inch. It's icicles. They'll turn the leaves dark. But these leaves are going to fall off a little bit later anyway. They're putting on buds all along here, and these stems, there's buds. And it's just freezing. It won't bother me. Only 2 years ago when we had the polar vortex, we had -1 out in the orchard, out of the house. The only variety that showed any cold damage was the Nature's. And it had little buds like this that were really already swollen. They hadn't put out leaves yet. Bigger buds like that. And they had cold damage. They did put out either below them or they put out to other places, but they didn't have as heavy production that year as they normally have. But that, out of all the varieties, that was the one that we saw the most average from. That's about all I have.